Support Name Explain on Patreon for ad-free videos, exclusive podcasts and blog posts, and to help choose what names get explained. Click the link in the description. Okay, so before I get swamped by a wave of enraged Spaniards, I have to address the elephant in the room. Yes, I know these areas of Spain aren't officially called regions. From what I can find, the proper title for these areas of land are autonomous communities, or even just autonomies. So why am I calling them regions in the title of this video, and most likely sticking with that term for the rest of the video? Well, it's for a couple of reasons. Despite not being their proper name, I've seen other sources refer to these areas as regions of Spain, and also regions of Spain just sounds better and easier to understand in the title of a YouTube video than Autonomous Communities of Spain. Perhaps one day I'll explain to you what goes into the name of a YouTube video. Anyway, like most countries on our planet, Spain is too split up into various regions, each with their own unique identity, histories, and of course, names. While most of these regions are found in mainland Spain on the Iberian Peninsula, some are a bit further afield, some reside in the middle of the ocean and seas, and there's even a couple that are in a completely different continent. So today, let's find out how the 19 autonomous communities, regions, of Spain got their names. Let's start things off in Spain's northwest corner with the region of Galicia. This region is believed to be named after the Celtic tribe who called this part of the world home many years ago, the Galaki. Of course, there's more to this story, however. There seems to be a few ideas as to how these people got their name. One idea is a bit more sensible and thinks the name may mean things like people of the hill / forest. This is a pretty stereotypical naming idea. However, the idea I like more as to where the name comes from has it relating to milk of all things. Spanish scholar Isidore of Seville believed that the name for this tribe and the name for the Gauls themselves came from the Greek word for milk, as their skin tone was of a lighter colour compared to other European inhabitants, like the colour of milk. So the name of this region could be interpreted to mean land of the milk-coloured people. And yes, I am very aware there's a region in Eastern Europe called this too. One day we'll look into why these places have the same name, I promise. To the east of Galicia, we have Asturias, which is officially a principality, but in the past was a kingdom unto itself which covered this land area plus more. This is seemingly a pretty ancient name, as it's still not entirely clear to us in regards to what it means. There seems to be a handful of etymological ideas, and what seems to be the common theme in them is that the name relates to water, which makes sense as there are many waterways in the region, and its northern border is the Bay of Biscay. The most popular idea is that the name comes from Basque origins, from their words for rock and water, so the name means land where water flows from rocks or something along those lines. Carrying on east, we have the region of Cantabria. One idea is that this name is of Celtic root and means rocks / rocky, due to the terrain in this part of the world. However, something I noticed about this name was how similar it is to the name of Canterbury, a city here in England in the county of Kent. Canterbury and Kent both come from the same etymological root, the Celtic cant, meaning things like coastal district or cornerland. There's actually an idea that this Spanish region's name also comes from these same Celtic roots. It would make sense for it to mean coastal district as it borders the sea but is not particularly in any corner. It's an interesting idea and would explain why these two names in different nations are so similar. They were both once inhabited by Celts after all. Basque County may be a region of Spain, but Basque unto itself is a much larger concept, which includes the language called Basque, as previously mentioned, that came from this region, and Basque is an ethnic group of Europe unto itself too. The name Basque is thought to come from Latin roots, with their word vascones. It's thought to mean foresters due to where they live, but other ideas have the name meaning mountain people, tall ones, or proud one. Whichever one is correct, the Basque region of Europe seems to be proud of their unique identity. In the Basque language, it has a completely different name, Euskaladunak. This name, however, seems to be of a more unknown etymology. Next to Basque County is the region of Navarre. This seems to be a place with a strong Basque influence too, and one idea is that the name comes from Basque origins meaning valley or plains, once again due to the landscape of the region. A different idea, however, is that it comes from another Basque word, Navarre, which means multicolored or brown due to how the color of the landscapes here contrasted with the predominantly green lands in other parts of this area. Either way, it's another region named after what the land looks like. Below both Basque County and Navarre lies the region of La Rioja. The first part of this name may seem pretty familiar to some of us, and that's because Rio is a word we see in other place names like with Rio de Janeiro. Rio in Spanish and Portuguese means river, so this region of Rioja was named after a river. But what river? Well, while you may think it will be called just the Ya, and they just put Rio and the Ya together, that's not entirely correct. The river is actually called the Oya, so as it starts with an O and Rio ends with an O, they simply use the same O and just mush the words together. Oya in Spanish means watch out, so maybe the name of this river was a warning for the river itself. Next we have the region of Aragon, which was also a kingdom unto itself many years ago. While sounding similar to his name, it has nothing to do with a certain king of Gondor. This region is named after a river that runs through it, that being the river Aragon, much like Rioja. As to how this river got the name itself, well, it seems to be of just Proto-Indo-European roots meaning water, which makes sense. Rivers are just water after all. And in Spain's northeastern corner, we have the region of Catalonia, which like Basque County, has a strong unique identity unto itself with its own language and ethnicity. Catalan. Where their name and the land's name comes from, however, is debated. Wikipedia and its various sources have compiled a few ideas as to where the name comes from. One idea is that it means land of the Goths, as the initial settlers came from Goth-ruled lands. Other ideas have Catalonia meaning land of castles, as there are many impressive castles in the land. And another idea is that the name Catalan comes from Celtic roots and means chiefs of battle. I guess they were pretty good at fighting. As we start to venture south, we come to the largest region of Spain, Castilla and Leon. This area's name comes from two previous kingdoms that reigned in Spain, Castilla and Leon. Now these are pretty darn straightforward to explain if you haven't guessed them already. Though if you're still struggling, then look at these former kingdoms' flags and you should know by now. Castilla is named after their castles and Leon is named after lions. As it was a kingdom, it means there would have been actual kings of Leon. And I reckon their music was probably better too. And in the centre of Spain, we arrive at the community of Madrid, named after the nation's capital city, which is of course in this region, Madrid. So for this one, we need to look into how the city got its name. Despite being a landlocked region, more or less in the dead centre of a country known for its warmer climate, Madrid is too thought to come from watery origins. This is because while it may not have any coast, there is a river running through it. One idea is that the city was initially called Matrice, meaning water in an old language, while another idea is that it came from the Arabic term Mela, meaning water too, or even meaning a giver of life. On the Spanish-Portuguese border, we have the region of Extremadura. One theory is that this name is of Latin origin, initially being Extremadoli, meaning end of the Duero River, with the Duero River being yet another river that runs through the country. This region is seen as being home to the southern end of this very river, hence how it ended up with that name. Another idea is that it has this name because it's in the extreme of Spain, further away from the coast and more civilized areas of the nation, though these are both just ideas. Castilla-La Mancha might seem like a pretty large area of Spain, and while that's the case, it's not particularly populated. The Castilla part once again means castle. Man, the Spanish do love a good castle, while the Mancha part means stain. While it means stain, I'm not too sure why. It certainly is an odd thing to name something after. Maybe this region is seen as a stain upon the rest of Spain. No offense if you're living here, however, I'm sure it's wonderful. On Spain's east coast, we have the Valencia community, which like the community of Madrid is named after the region's capital city, Valencia. The city was founded by the Romans and was initially called Vientia Editorum, meaning fort of the Editani, who were a tribe that lived here. Though as time went on, their name disappeared from the city's name and just the Valentia part stuck. This means things along the lines of strength and valor and victory. As I mentioned in a recent Fun with First Names video, which you should totally watch by the way, they're really good fun, pretty much every name starting with V somehow relates to victory in one way or another. Now onto Spain's most populated region, Andalusia. Despite being such a large region, the name comes from an even larger region, that being the old Arabic name for the entire Iberian Peninsula. The Arabic name for the land was Al-Andalus. This name is thought to come from a Latin name meaning country of the Vandals. Latin speakers named it this around the end of the Roman Empire, as they saw the Germanic people who descended upon their kingdom, including Iberia, as exactly that. Vandals. And now for our last region on the Iberian Peninsula, Murcia. While it might sound like a poor job at pronouncing America, it doesn't relate to the land of the free. Murcia, as well as being the name for this region, is the name for the main city in the region too. Like with Madrid and Valencia, it's thought to come from Latin and mean land of the myrtle, with myrtle being a flower that grew in large quantities in the land. It's time we set out to sea now, with the island-based region of Spain, the Balearic Islands. This includes the popular tourist destinations of Mallorca, Menorca and Ibiza, just to name a few. There's a couple ideas as to where the word Balearic comes from. The traditional idea is that's of Greek origin and means the slingers, in reference to their weapons, which I guess would have been a sling of some sort. Spain has two regions that are actually known as autonomous cities, and they both reside in Africa just across the Strait of Gibraltar. They're the cities of Ceuta and Melilla respectively. The name Ceuta came from some very long-winded origins. The city is surrounded by 7 hills, which in Latin is Septem Fratres. Over time, the former part of this name was corrupted into Setia via Arabic and other languages. The name Melilla, on the other hand, isn't as known to us, but one idea is that relates to honey of all things, much like the further away island nation of Malta. And finally, all the way off the west coast of Africa, we have the Canary Islands. These islands are not named after the birds are named after the islands. So then what are the islands named after? Well, they are named after a different kind of animal. Dogs. The name comes from the Latin Canaria Insula, which means island of the dogs, because many dogs lived on the island. So the birds are named after the islands, and the islands are named after dogs. Thank you to all my patrons who support Name Explain on a monthly basis. Patreon is vital to Name Explain, and donating just $2 a month allows you to enjoy ad-free videos and bonus Patreon exclusive content. It also allows you to help choose what names get explained in upcoming videos, and gets your name here with all these awesome people. Thank you so much for all the support you guys give Name Explain. Hello all, and thank you so much for reaching the end of the video. Check out another video and subscribe to stay in the loop on all things Name Explain. You can find me on Twitter, I'm at NameExplainYT. On Instagram, I'm also NameExplainYT, and on Facebook, just search Name Explain. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and once again, thank you all so much.